Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Posthuman Saga and the Journey Home expansion. We will be talking about both of those. So, Posthuman was a game that originally came out. I meant to look it up.
It's been quite a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it was an early Kickstarter.
You're right, 2015. Okay, not
as long as I thought, actually. But.
Yeah, I thought it was like 13 or 12 or something. So 2015 is when the original came out. It had some interesting ideas with the fact that you kind of are on your own quad. Like, it didn't have the board with where it was kind of organized. You just kind of built out the map. And it's been a while since I've played it, but I remember it. I remember it having elements of like kind of semi-cooperative. It was a race at the end of the day to get to like a fortress or something. But there were some small ways that I think if both players camped, it was like thematically you go to each. You're like if you're on the same type of terrain or something, then you could camp together and you can trade with each other. I ended up getting rid of it because it was extremely clunky. It was kind of one of those in those infancy eras of board games where it was just like too busy. It was too much all thrown in, like the Kickstarter kind of bloat. That I ended up getting rid of it just because I also hated the combat. The combat was similar kind of here, but instead of like cards, you rolled dice, and it was just this convoluted mess where they just didn't quite understand how to make it flow and still be thematic. Posthuman Saga I got because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it another shot. Like, this one seems like a second edition kind of style. The two expansions seem really cool with the journeys home after you're coming back to the fortress after you go out and explore it, and then the resistance is the resistance. So overall, I think it's a better experience than the original. My major complaint, and this is basically because with the Journeys Home expansion, this game is long. This game is probably like, because the Journeys Home expansion, like the original, the game ends if someone kills a mutant boss or they complete their second mission, their own personal mission. So it's kind of variable in length. With Journeys Home, it's like, nope, that doesn't happen. It's 16 rounds. That's a lot, I think. I don't know if you're feeling it. I wasn't quite checked out by the end of it, but I was thinking probably by around 12.
Yeah.
I was like, this can wrap up. Especially because you have, like, the round tracker is only interesting because you're looking forward to the stories. And once all of our tokens were gone, I was like, okay, well, the rest are blanks. And by the end of it, we're just kind of tossing.
Oh, yeah, that was going to be my thing. It's like a lot of the terrain games, any of these games where you have terrain tiles that you're flipping and everything, this has that same kind of deal. When it's getting late game, you don't have enough time to do a lot of the stuff, and it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's just like just toss stuff, which is kind of an aged mechanic in its own right.
Yeah, that's true.
The one thing because you could probably home brew this too. I mean, you could probably add an extra token for each.
You could
in there too.
All the tokens that are for the players aren't double-sided. They don't look like that. So
I guess
you could technically take other players' tokens and be like, oh, that one's me.
Yeah. I mean, just to do something, just to make it more.
I would honestly just remove, because in a two-player game, there's 3 of our tokens each,
right.
And then so that would be 6. So therefore,
take 4 rounds out,
so
go to 12.
Yeah, so you have 10 blanks. Yeah, and so take 4 blanks out and only do 12 rounds.
I would agree with that too. But I think because all that time we played, we had just this little area, and like, I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. If it needed to be a little, if the link's right, because I ran out of time to do something. You don't want it to be so long that you're accomplishing everything,
right?
Either,
Well, right, and that's the thing is like because of just the nature. And there's enough content here, especially if you have Saga. There's a lot. You have a lot of content here, like the enemies, if you're doing the journeys home, the combination of stuff like that, all the weapons and stuff. So there's a bunch here. This is a very solid post-apocalyptic game, I think. And I'm not. That's one of your favorite themes. It's one of my least favorite themes, and I think that this one does a really good job of throwing in some humor. It's not like this brooding, like, woe is me post-apocalypse. This one is actually, it's like you had this case of people who had croquet mallets, and they're just like, hey, we're gonna go mutant hunting. Or like you have this moronic look as you peek out the window. So they throw in humor, and I appreciate that. So it's very thematic. But in terms of the actual gameplay, kind of like what you said, it goes on too long that it's almost like they didn't know quite how to balance it, because they didn't want it to be too short, because the way that the game ends, it's just like a boom, game's over. Oh, okay, the score is what it is.
Right.
So I just had more points than you, and there wasn't really anything you could do to catch up. Far be it from maybe it's like, oh, you were able to sneak out one more thing.
So how much would that have changed? Because, I mean, we played it 2. If we played this with 4, it would have been
16 rounds
long.
Because
everybody. But the reason I'm coming to this direction is, how much of this game do they expect to be simultaneously done?
It does say that.
Just because that could cut a lot of the time. We didn't do anything simultaneous, really. We were
basically, if there was a camp phase and someone else was doing something.
Okay.
I'll look it up. That's just what we did. If
Right,
if someone did a camp, it was like, okay, it's only me and doing my stuff. I'm trying to remember. General setup is. Oh, sorry, it's over here. In the actual rule book for the setup of that. In a 4-player game, it's 2 tokens each.
Right, but
So there's.
But as far as the gameplay, though, everybody doing their forage action, or everybody doing their trek action and having a battle. I mean, it's going to make it another couple hours long. You'd think, hour and a half.
Yeah. So where is it in terms of actions? It does say. Day phase. To speed up gameplay, you may wish to have players resolve camp and forage actions simultaneously.
Okay. So
because tracking has combat, and mapping deals with tiles.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, because in a 4-player game, if like 2 of them pick camp, and then you have a trek, and then you have a map, the 2 people doing camp can just quickly
just. If everybody forages, not forages.
If everyone tracks, then it's like round. Okay, like. All right, there's your combat. There's your combat. There's your combat. No, absolutely not. I would never play this with more than 2.
And I don't know what BGG has this on, but I've heard in a lot of the solo community stuff that I am part of talks about how this is like good to play solo.
Oh, I can see that.
Like this is a primary solo game to them.
So community 62% recommended that 1. Most people are saying it's best at 2.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, but either way, I mean,
yeah.
But it's
just because there's nothing going on. Like at least in the, I mean, they have modes in here where it can be team versus team and stuff like that. But at least in the first one, you had some kind of interaction where it's like, oh man, we camp, and like you come to my camp, and we actually can communicate. But no, this is a multiplayer solitaire game. It's a race. It's like, okay, like I can look at and see what order of scavenger tokens you're placing. So it's like, okay, do I want to race to get that bonus before him? I can see that you're going for that. I'm also going for that. But it's almost like, I don't know. Like, it's like, clearly this is a 5.1. If that was out first, yeah, we might, because then you're vying for tiles. You're bidding to be like, oh, there's only one mountain out there. Like, I want to get a jump on that.
But there was a swing point. Well, that maybe the last 25% of the game, where a lot of those, I mean, it was just going to be total luck because we've already flipped over most of our tokens. And it's like, I wish there was a way or some sort of something, I don't know what the mechanic would be to try to, like, to maybe, like, be able to flip over
them. Yeah.
Or something, because
I mean,
you're only getting a tile around unless you map. You get two around. There's 16 rounds. I mean, and you've got a lot of, and you can't put down another one on tiles you've already replaced. I don't believe. I mean, that's the way I took it. So it's like you kind of run out of real estate quick.
Yeah, flip over any Explore tokens present on the tiles used so that the Explored icon is showing. Terrains with the Explored icon on them cannot be used to complete further Explorer cards or their progress
Right,
cards.
so I mean, like, you kind of...
I think that's why it's so long. I think they try to mitigate the randomness.
Right.
Is for that. Is because it is random on tiles that come out. There's only 4 tiles, so... And I like the fact that one of your actions can be to mitigate that. You can just wipe it and be like, okay, I did like the map. I did that wipe once because I was looking for a shop. Shopping card, which I got. That must have been why that you were given enough time to be able to go out and complete. And it's not a high-scoring game. I mean, it only goes to 25 in terms of the...
Yeah, because I completed 2 of those out there. And
I completed
more, but...
2.
Well, you only completed 2 also?
Yeah. But it was a 5-pointer and a 2-pointer.
Right, and I just had... Yeah.
So that was 7 points, and I got 2 points from killing the seer.
Yeah.
And that's all Journey Home stuff. The rest, once again, is base game. Everyone has like a personal mission.
Right.
It's like their own thing that they're doing.
I mean, if that's the case, I would say...
I think
if you're going to do this game, you have to do that. You need the expansion, I think.
The Journey Home?
Yes, to get these. Because this adds a good puzzle to it.
Yeah.
Instead of everybody just having their own personal thing and having to worry about the balance of that and all that stuff, that brings in where this makes that important and makes you think about where
makes
you're
you actually want to go out and track, and trek too, and so it's like you have to risk combat, and try and make a pattern. So you're going, like you said, going for tiles in a very specific order. And I mean, well, the really cool thing is this expansion would be the Journey Home, if it was just points. But for most of the higher score ones, it's extra stuff.
Yeah, you
like
bring
extra
story
story
mode.
stuff. Yes.
Well, because that's how I got my thing started. Was that how I got that thing started? Yeah, that's how I got the one where I was going out taking off the con.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that was a neat deal because you got an extra follower and you had to do 2 battles to win it.
Yes.
And mind you, I think I technically won because I was the only one that beat a boss. So,
you know what? Whatever personal thing that you need. I beat a boss, kind of. She was a seer of the third eye. I had a big head. And definitely this saga adding in story elements is 100% the way to go. I do not think the first edition had story stuff.
It didn't. I mean, I owned it, never played it, but it didn't have any storybook stuff.
Yeah.
It was
So
all just
adding that in with the actual saga, then the Journey's Home adds 31 or 29, and then the Resistance adds more. And I like that. I mean, I wouldn't want the rounds to be bloated with story stuff. Right. So the fact that you only get 3 of these means that in a 2-player game, you're only going to see 6 out of... I mean, if you're playing with all expansions, 70, 100, 130 stories. And each of those have multiple choices.
Yeah.
So it's not even just that. It's like sometimes it's like, if you have a visible mutation, this happens. If you have a certain follower, this happens. And I really like that. I think that's what kept the game fresh for about 3 hours. But about 4 rounds of blanks. And then the events, and I like that the events aren't really like... They're random, but they're not like dickhead random where you're like screwed.
Yeah, they're not like heavy-handed.
Yeah.
That you get the choice of whether they affect you or not. I mean, so you can work around them.
Yeah.
If needs be, like that one where we lost morale or fatigue for foraging or trekking. You just don't do those if you don't have it.
Or you can be like, okay, I was going to trek, but I don't want to go up in fatigue, so I'll forage instead because I can take the morale hit.
Right.
I also like the fact that when you get KO'd, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's just a victory
if
point
you have good
your followers.
Yeah,
really
which, funny enough, because you were like at 6 victory points and I was at like 14, and you were like, I'm not even... And I'm like, well, you could easily catch up, and you did, because when I got KO'd, it tied us, and I was like, am I gonna fucking lose? Am I gonna oh my god, and the mutation ended up... I was like, oh, that's not the worst.
Yeah.
But because of that, the guy hunting me got a reroll, which ended up being 2 wounds, and I was like, oh no. So, speaking of all that, what do you think of combat?
I actually, when I was first learning about the combat and stuff, it seemed a little weird, but I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I almost, though, of course, I didn't have much issues with my fights as much as you did.
Yeah.
I was going to say before you got trashed on that one that it almost seems like there's a tipping point where you're not going to lose.
Yeah.
Unless you, I mean, there's a chance, but it seems like you're pretty much going to win every battle.
Yeah.
But
I think that's why the resistance added level 3 monsters. No, I completely agree. Because the way combat works, and it kind of makes sense, these mutants are just kind of meant to be a hindrance, and I think they might have been trepidatious because the first edition was so just, oh man, I hope I hit, oh nope, I missed.
Right.
You have so much control over it with your primary action, but it's like, I like that these are multi-use.
Yes.
Where it's like, if I use my aim shot, if I don't kill him, or it's like if you use your really high one, but you want to save your mind or speed stuff. But
and then go along with that thought, I like how you have to think about, what you're going to do if it comes to melee. After, if your range doesn't kill them, you need to have, so like you want to make sure you're prepped for melee just in case they get close enough so you have to go hand-to-hand combat with them.
Exactly.
I mean, there's this, like I said, I didn't play the original, but having this little deck is probably one of the coolest things.
That's definitely the biggest upgrade that they did.
Yeah, because
100%.
and being able to upgrade it with your own upgrades and put an extra.
And the fact that these are
and
your
stuff.
own specialized cards for your character, so they're a little bit more personalized to you. Like my character was all about kind of getting past their defense, but I never came across enemies that had defense. No, I kind of agree. The only negative I have for combat is it's kind of like, and I guess it kind of is thematic, is if you're prepped for combat, you're gonna win. If you have ammo, if you can do the range and spend the ammo before it comes down to melee, then you just pot shot him, and you're like, okay, well that was that. But then if you don't, then you're fucked. And so it's like a weird balance. I never really found combat challenging, even when I was losing. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, I took a wound, or I took a couple wounds. I'm still good to go. Yeah, I didn't kill him, but I survived, so that's still an XP or something. But yeah, I would have liked it if there was more challenge, if there was enemies that were able to like bypass guns or something, so to where it's like if you're built to be a sniper, that it doesn't matter.
In a game where getting KO'd doesn't really hurt as bad, then having the combat be tougher to win would be, like, because you go into these battles, when I went in up against the boss and all that stuff, it's like, well, if I get KO'd, I'm just going to lose my tattoo artist and that guy.
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't have gotten the victory points for beating him.
But I mean, it was like you go into battles knowing that, I mean, if you lose, it's not like you're out of the game, or it's gonna like totally put you behind so far. Where it's
that was really the most disappointing thing. Is like that's a boss, like 5 HP. Okay.
When you said 10, I wasn't surprised when you were joking. You said 10. I was like, oh, okay.
Right. I mean, even the level 3s.
I think it's the abilities that make them tough.
It's supposed to be,
because like the one that I pulled, where you had to be totally, or I couldn't pull any random cards. It had to be
dogs.
It was the.
Yeah, it was Pack. Pack was
that
whenever
one?
you had to
the
randomize
invisible
your
one is
primary.
when you had to do random on both.
Yeah.
And stuff, but it's like so that some of those abilities can be.
I think that's kind of what it was, because that was the only time that you actually like lost an encounter was the dogs.
Yeah.
It was like you got a shitty initial draw, and then your random was also missed.
I didn't get a chance to use my awesome saw axe. That would have mowed some shit down.
I think it's really just not. I don't think you're meant to lose. But I mean, hell, even in the level 3 ones, it only goes up to level 4, or not level 4 health.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of those, like the level 4 health, it's like they don't have range. So if it comes down, I mean, that's kind of where it comes down to, is like you have range. And I was even re-looking at the combat for range, because I'm like, you choose a primary. Yep. You use your spend a discard ammo, draw shot results, check your weapon shooting chart. How much damage, and roll they don't have shooting dice, so okay. Then you deal damage, which it makes thematic sense. If you have a gun and they don't,
guys charging at you,
then you can shoot him, and
right.
if you're like, okay, I shot him in the head, he's dead. But it's like if you miss and then they run up on you, then I think that's why they made melee combat. It's pretty interesting, where it's like, okay, here's what I got, here's my total results versus theirs.
It's a clash of swords, and you're trying to see
right.
who comes out. Yeah.
Right, so it is kind of like you're going to almost mow through every single enemy. But if you don't, then it hurts. And then if you get a visible mutation, that could affect you, -1 permanent, and then it affects the story stuff. So it's a weird balance. I don't know how I'd feel about it, but you're right. I think that is kind of how it comes down. Since being KO'd is you only lose 1 victory point. If you have 2 followers, you lose them both.
I think in a weird sense of a way, and I know it doesn't come off like this, and when I say this, it's not that, but in a way, this kind of has some Euro parts to it.
Oh,
whereas
yeah,
you're not supposed to. It's not about you dying.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that setting you back.
Right.
So if your other person's not dying, then they're going to keep working their engine and getting ahead, doing whatever they need to do, because it's more of a waste of time when you lose, and a waste of because then you have to go down, you have to camp, and all that stuff. So it's like.
Yeah, you only go up if you lose by morale. You only go up to 2, and think about it. It actually did. Like, I was only 3-point difference. If you were able to finish this one out, you would have swung that way. Because I was trying to do this one. Mm-hmm. So whenever I went here to trek and I lost, that wasn't a token that I could place, because I was going to go here and then go back and trek to get that. But because I lost, so you're right. It is very Euro-y.
It's a time penalty.
And I'll take this combat any day. I actually like the fact that the enemies roll dice. Mm-hmm. So you don't know exactly what they're going to do, but you're not one of those where it's like, gee, I'm an expert marksman, but I hope I can fucking hit.
Right.
That shit is so stupid.
And I don't know what you have, but, some of my abilities, like my kind of my normal ability, the one that kind of everything plays off of, lets you, if you draw a complete miss, then you can redraw. It helps even mitigate that the randomness of your card selection a little bit even more.
Yes.
So it's I definitely prefer that over the dice for sure.
Yeah. And I like the fact, like the XP, I think it's a really smart addition. You can kind of do a little bit of building. I used my weaponsmith once, and it was just to get 1 mod for defense. Because I totally planned on going full melee, but it just never came down to it. For the utility ones, I had some really cool ones, all about like broadcasts. At the end of broadcasts, I can place a terrain and scavenge site at the end of an empty zone. And then my skilled surveyors, at the end of a broadcast, if I place a terrain, I may move on to it. So I actually had a lot of ways to actually like advance and get more terrain stuff. I just never picked it.
And I had like a lot of scouting kind of things and dealing with these cubes. A lot of stuff dealt with cubes, and then I had one if there's a tie. If you
broke the tie,
I had the opportunity to spend another one.
Oh,
nice! Being able to break the tie.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of feel like
that,
in a higher player count game, the broadcast phase is a little bit better.
Well, right, because that's what I think of the 16 rounds. I think I actually put stuff out maybe 3 times. I went 0 most of the time, because even if there was something I really wanted and I didn't have the stuff, you were putting counters out like wildfire, like crazy. And I was like, okay, there's only how many land types? 4. So that's like, there's a 25% chance the thing I need is going to pop up there.
Yeah, it was kind of more of like of the scavenger tokens that I felt were more of a grab, where it's like, oh man, 1 potion came out, I really want it. And there were times I bid high because I wanted a specific one. Who knows if that was the difference maker?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but yeah.
But overall, it's a solid one. I think I think it balances well. It's a little long for my taste, and like, at least for this kind of game, that I just don't know if I could, because I really don't know how much simultaneously doing foraging would speed up the game.
Because it didn't take no time.
Yeah.
We pretty much just
Like, I mean, yeah,
done your thing and done. We almost
yeah.
did it some already in that game, a little bit.
True.
I mean, because
especially we did half of the simultaneous stuff with camping.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you ever mapped. I don't think you ever
Nope.
actually mapped.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have I was able to get the tokens or the map things I needed, so I always had what
Yeah.
I needed over here.
Yeah.
And it also helped at the beginning of the game when we didn't know there was a limit. We both.
Well, no, I knew there was a limit. I just thought it was
Right,
4 each.
right.
I thought it was 4 tokens
So, I mean-
and 4 tiles.
So
Not
that's
4
why I
total.
didn't have to do it early game because we
Yeah.
had everything I needed. So I
Yeah.
was just kind of rolling with it. But yeah, I mean it's definitely a powerful action. I just
Right. And there's a bunch of characters in here.
Yeah, that was something I was going to ask about
Like-
as far as
And I have them all in different bags. And this is with all the expansions, so that's not it. So there's that. Here's the special guy. He has like mutations. He's the one on the cover.
yeah.
I think that's it. I think those are all the characters.
No, but that's still pretty.
It's a decent amount, especially with their own
Yeah.
decks and their own kind of builds. So they definitely did a pretty solid upgrade. So pretty much my only major negative is its length. Like our run through took about 2 hours and 50 minutes. It's almost 3 hours.
You probably only
Maybe
chopped
shave 10 minutes.
10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say. So it was a 2.5 hour
Yeah.
deal for sure.
I do like the fact that the round order is very simple, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where it's you're only given 4 options, but I think it's enough. I think the 4 options are enough because of the puzzle.
Well, and I'm glad that it doesn't do that one mechanic with these. Like some games that have 4 actions, it's like you use one and then you can't use it the next time.
Right.
And then you can pick it up when you use another one.
Yeah, you have to camp or something to
right.
bring it all back.
So it's like I was glad that you could just, if I wanted to camp 3 times in a row, it's a late waste of time, but you could get everything maxed out if you wanted to. And
it's not even really a waste of time. I think the camp action is very solid. It saves you from having to eat.
Right.
For one round, and then you can kind of refresh and the equipment. I mean, we drew like 3 equipment cards, and there's still this entire.
I tossed one. There was one that I got late game was like, oh, you can throw a tile down anywhere on your map. It's like, I don't.
You're like, okay, that sucks. But yeah, my only one I got was a compass, and it ended up being pretty handy.
Yeah, my tent I got from I got that as from beating somebody,
That
and
ganger.
then I got a vaccine pump. If I had a mutation, I could just discard this to get rid of the mutation.
Yeah.
That would have been. That's why I kept it, because I was like, I don't know when it's.
Yeah. So,
You know, so.
They definitely. It seems like they wanted to lean more player friendly, like where kind of everything goes your way. You have a lot of ways to get, these booze tokens, or a lot of ways to get those pills to heal. So you can just kind of like I went down once. I think I got KO'd once in the 4-hour game.
I think though goes back into that us talking about the Euro stuff a little bit. Like, you don't want a game like this with player elimination, or where it's going to be so bad that you die that it's
KO'd and your game's over.
Well, or
Yeah.
just where it hinders you so much
Yeah.
that it's like, why am I even going to finish this game?
That's true.
Like it slows your time down and lets the other person, if they take advantage of it, get a little bit of a head. But it's not a crippling thing. I think that's why it's like they don't want it to be like a.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's
Well,
just,
now that I think about it, because it is a race and the game hard ends after 16 rounds, and because every single one of these require you to trek, therefore that requires you to go into combat, you're fighting a lot, which then in turn means you need to forage a lot to try and keep up on ammo and resources.
Right.
So if you don't do that, which you foraged way more than I did, I barely did it, except towards the end, which is the result of me actually getting KO'd. So yeah, if you're not, so it might actually balance out more than I think. And every once in a while, you're gonna come across something that, just kind of hits you harder than you planned on. Might not KO you, but you might not kill it. So, but that's not XP you're getting. So, actually, can I see like the level 2, for example? Just because I'm almost positive. Yeah, none of the enemies give you XP.
You see, and I
But
didn't know. That's I was the last ditch. That's
Yeah.
why I did that at the end.
None of them give you XP, but what it does is the special ones, like
Yeah.
the exploration cards that you're going after.
Mm-hmm.
Those are thematically supposed to represent, okay, you trekking for here gets you, and that's what you come across, and I like that. It's integrated pretty well. It got me to and she gave me two victory points. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I think this is extremely solid. I think the theme comes out really well. This is kind of in that similar kind of, I guess, Vindication kind of style, where it's like very Euro, but it is actually thematic.
Right.
So, you have anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Not at this point. I'll
Okay.
talk about more stuff when we're exploring it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give Posthuman Saga?
Well, with this one, because I've had my opportunity to buy it because it's been on clearance a lot at stores and stuff. Not the Kickstarter version.
Yeah.
But because I don't think you get the plastic stuff. With
Yeah,
the
the
retail
plastic stuff is just kind of there. I almost actually would probably prefer tokens.
Right.
Because of just the board that you have that you can actually stack them up.
Right. So, anyway, I never did purchase this because it just didn't. The first one had a reputation and all that stuff. So I was very pleasantly surprised with this. Even though the time being what it is, this is the kind of game that if I was to own, I would only ever play it solo because nobody would ever want to play it. Nobody, I mean, maybe one other guy in the gaming group I game with might want to play this game.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would just be doing it solo.
Yeah.
So the time wouldn't be an issue with solo games. I don't care how long they are.
True.
So I came in with very low expectations for this game. Actually ended up enjoying it quite a bit, to be honest with you.
Figured this was gonna be right up your alley.
I would need to explore it more, but at this current time, I would probably give it about an 8.
8?
Yeah, I mean I enjoyed just the theme and just it scratched my brain the right way.
Yeah,
with how the combat and stuff. It was a neat thing, and I like the. I mean, we didn't even touch those decks hardly. There's so many more weapons and stuff that we.
And
can
it's
get
more
into
of I like that. I like that the weapons you're finding is like you're gonna scavenge for something you're probably gonna find something good. That's like okay, like this is gonna be it. Like this is kind of what I'm gonna run with. I think the amount of stuff is more just for variety. Is more than anything, and I think kind of what. Whenever we were talking about how like everything kind of goes your way or everything's kind of relatively easy, it still gives you still like I never felt like I was going through the motions, except picking the tiles. I was like, just get that out of here because I have what I need.
That happens on any tiling game though, for the most part. Towards the end of the game, it's
exactly, and it really was towards like the last 3 rounds where, like. Maybe that was just because I was like, maybe I got this, but it could have easily been the different for you if maybe you just needed. You could have probably.
I could have done this if I would have had the right.
Because if you happen to be here, then you could have.
I just didn't. My thing was when there was 2 rounds left, I had 2 rounds enough time to get to here to get those last 2 points and see what that. Because I got 4 points for that.
If you were
I had 2
actually
points
like,
for getting there, and then 2 points for. Well, no, I got the 2 points.
You got the 2 points. But it could have been like. I mean, if you got there first, if there was 1 round behind, you could have trekked there, then gotten a mountain, trek there, and then trek into a forest, and be like, and then actually snake 4 points. So, me losing the 1 point actually would have been the cost of the game.
Yeah, it was.
So it was still pretty close. It doesn't. You still have meaningful decisions. Like I had to camp a few times because I was like, well, I really need ammo. I'm on a mountain with an ammo, but I can't beat that mind. I don't have it. I can only get 3, and that's on a perfect draw, so I need to camp. So, and I think the writing is actually, it's not like the most amazing writing ever in the world, but it's good enough. It's not this War of Mine level where you're coming across and you're seeing mutant abortions or shit like that. It's meant to be more lighthearted.
It's not Aeon's End, though. It's
in
the middle.
Yeah, it's solid,
it's better
humorous
than
writing. Still encapsulating the overall feel. I'm a little less than you though. I'm at about a 4. No, I'm gonna give it a 7.
Yeah.
I think it's solid. The length does wear on me a little bit. It's a little too much. If it was about 4 rounds shorter, I think I could put it up at an 8. I feel like the story would stand out more, and you would still feel those puzzling decisions, but it might give a little bit more angst of playing better because you know that the game is shorter versus like 16 rounds. Yeah, I got all the time in the world. So that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, I mean, I'm also surprised because I did play the first one and got rid of it promptly because I was like, this sucks. And actually, yeah, looking at Board Game Geek, the first one has like a 6.5.
It's still not bad though. I mean, if you think about, I mean, I know it's not great, but
Yeah.
I was surprised it's that high.
Was it even the same company? Oh yeah, Mighty. Oh, I guess they were Mighty Box back then, so they might have. I guess they went through a different stuff. I also would have liked, and this could be in the team versus team or something. I also would have liked if there was some way to kind of interact with other players. With it being so story driven, it would have been cool to have something that would allow us to potentially trade or have a
make that like a portal.
Well,
because
like I said, the first one did have like, oh, if both players
Right.
camp, then that's they're kind of like you like, oh man, we come across paths and I stop at your campsite, just to be like, just to have something instead of really the only interaction is, do you take that tile before me? So that's where I'm at. So 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, still really good scores. I'm very surprised. I think the expansions are very solid, just to have more different ways to play and more stories. So that's it, everyone. That's our thoughts on Posthuman Saga and the Journey Home expansion. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.